Property investing is not very glamorous. Forget about the real estate ads and the flashy homes and the Lamborghinis. Property investing to me is not glamorous, and you're not here to impress anyone. Now, I know some of the marketing material that Emily and I use is about how we built a $5 million property portfolio. But for me, the more important thing is the heart and value that we have and why we built that asset base. It's not about showing you flashy cars or flashy houses or having flashy investment properties. So I thought in today's video, we'd talk about not building a very impressive property portfolio and how that can actually lead to more success. Now, if you've been doing some property research, you might have been hit with buyer's agents that drive Mercedes and AMGs and show you fancy houses along the bayside and the water. And that's all a selling point. For most investors, you need to be looking at more affordable opportunities in the middle price points. Now in Brisbane, say a lower to middle price point might be between $500K and $1.2 million. You don't need to be looking at luxury end properties or fancy looking brand new homes to build a property portfolio. The assets themselves don't need to be impressive. A lot of the properties I help investors buy who are educated and looking for the right property to suit their needs are buying between, say, $500K and $800,000. And they're buying assets on good sized blocks with good quality built homes that are potentially bought below rebuild cost. I personally don't think you need these flashy properties or to take these flashy sales agents' tactics to help you build a property portfolio. It comes down to finding the right property for the right price in the right location that suits you. And that comes to understanding the strategy. So if you want to sit down with myself, you can head over to purposeproperty.com.au and book in a free strategy session. Now, what do we cover in those sessions? The key thing is price, strategy, suburbs, property specifics, and red flags. It's not rocket science, and we break it into those 5 key areas for a reason. The reason being, everyone's going to have a different budget, everyone's going to have a different strategy, and you're not going to buy the same property as the person next to you. Now, I generally advocate for properties that have been built up at least 20 years plus. When people come to me saying, hey Luke, I want a 5-year-old property, or I want a new property, generally when someone comes to me looking for a brand new property or a 5-year-old property, they're not looking for the right thing as an investor. Now, if you're looking for yourself, for your own home, you can essentially buy whatever you want and take off your investment cap and purchase the asset that you like most. But wearing my investor cap, when it comes to making an investment purchase, we don't want to be paying a builder's premium and we don't want to be buying in an area with a lot of land supply. And this is typically what happens in these shiny brand new properties is that they're in subpar locations. Now, location does a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to an investment property. So if you're going to buy this fancy house in the middle of nowhere, I can think of Greenbanks, Park Ridges, up near Caboolture at this point in time when we're talking areas here in Brisbane, then if you're buying these properties that are a long way from the CBD, that there's another 10,000 houses that are going to be built in the next few years and months in these areas, then that's where I don't see a great investment opportunity. There's too much future supply and there's not enough localized demand to push those prices up. Now, as we've seen over the last 2 years, a rising tide can lift all ships. So given the rising cost of materials and labor, these areas have lifted in value, as has the rest of the market. But the key thing here is they've generally underperformed. When you're looking at these new housing estates, they're generally not as good a value as those inner to middle rings or more affordable suburbs that have been established over 20 plus years. Property investing is both art and science, and that's why we need to look at both quantitative and qualitative data when it comes to making an investment decision. Now, the quantitative data is the backed data, it's the hard data. So we're talking about economic and ABS data around days on market, around vacancy rates, around demographics, around the incomes of an area. You can also look at the forecast future incomes. And qualitative data goes to the look and feel of a suburb. How is this street different to that street? What's the elevation like? What are the school zones like? Does this have a flood overlay? Putting that all together between the quantitative and the qualitative data can allow you to make a better investment decision. This is why you don't need an impressive property portfolio. You need to use the data, both quantitative and qualitative data, so both the science and the art to make your investment decision. And don't be sold on flashy things, on flashy houses that are in brand new locations that are booming or growth corridors. Don't be sold on those fallacies, in my opinion. Look at the underlying supply and demand. And generally, Established locations are more sought after because they were built out first. Generally when it comes to the CBD was built out first as a city when Brisbane was started and has spread out since then for lifestyle or for schooling reasons or for infrastructure and transport reasons. So look at the supply and the demand in the price point that you're looking at, whether it's 4 to 600K or 800,000 or $1.5 million. Look at the supply and demand and assess that against your potential investment purchase. The houses we end up buying and we share them on Facebook and Instagram are generally properties that are at least 10 to 15 years old, if not older. And it comes down to whether you can add value to them, whether the block size is large enough to add a granny flat or do a subdivision. And that's where I see those investment properties outperforming. You need to have, I talk about this a lot, you need to have different levers you can pull at different points in time. Is the property currently under rented and you can bring up the rent to market rent? Is there ability to do a cosmetic renovation on the property in the short to mid term? Can you knock down, rebuild in the future? Can you do a subdivision or add a granny flat? You need to have these levers on these unimpressive properties to potentially create value and get a price premium for that property down the track. So don't be sold by the flashy Instagram and the Facebook marketing ads about needing to buy impressive property. You need to buy the property that's right for you, for the right price in the right location. And if you're thinking about buying a property in Southeast Queensland in the next 6 months, head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a free strategy session with myself. We'll sit down, have a chat about your situation, chat about what we do as buyers agents here in Greater Brisbane, and talk about whether we can help you buy a property here in Brisbane in the next few months. Otherwise, thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.